Hi everyone, it's Brian Waters here from the QTube. I'm delighted to be able to share with you another great free resource, asset, whatever you want to call it, from the QTube. We have a masterclass presented by one of the faculty from the Film Scoring Academy of Europe, which is a top-notch educational facility. I recommend that you check out their website if you're interested in courses and stuff like that. Before we do that, I just want to share a couple of very quick things with you, slightly following up on what I shared with you last week in a couple of areas, and also something new. So I want to remind everyone that we are promoting, together with Mike Ladisser, a lecturer a professor in fact, from the Royal College of Music, his Orchestral Composition Accelerator. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out the video from last week. It's a fantastic intensive course about writing and recording music with an orchestra. And Mike, who's an absolute expert in this area, will be there to hold your hand every step of the way. Fantastic one-to-one sessions and a lovely group dynamic to it as well. There's an early bird offer for it at the moment, which is why I just want to flag it up again. If you're thinking about it, I really recommend that you kind of press the button on it, because you won't regret it, that's for sure. And also you'll be able to benefit from the early bird discount. And of course, everyone who signs up, as I said last week, will get a year's membership of the QTube as well. So there's lots of good reasons to sign up for it. I recommend that you check it out. I'll put a link to all of the details in the description down below. We've had some people sign up, which is brilliant. And I hope that more of you will sign up, and perhaps I'll see you out there in North Macedonia for the recording session later in the spring. Another thing that I want to talk about very quickly before we go into the masterclass is that you might remember a few weeks ago we announced that we were putting together a focus group for a new software product for composers. Well, that's all happened now. We've had the focus group, we've given lots of feedback back to the software company. The product is pretty much ready to go. We're just finishing off some bits and bobs with marketing and so on. But I'm here to announce that we're going to do a very special session prior to the full public launch of the product, especially for QTube members. That will be a closed session, and I recommend that you try and attend it. It's a really interesting product. There will be an exclusive discount for the software for QTube members, and it's something that could really help you with your workflow in particular. And of course, the easier the workflow, then the more bandwidth, if you like, you've got for the creative side of it. So yeah, join us for that. We will share further details, and I will try to put a link in the description down below as well with more details on where you can actually sign up to be part of that private closed session. We'll have an interview with the developer. We'll actually tell you more about the software. We'll also have a Q&A that you'll be able to participate in. And of course, we will be telling you how to get hold of the product. So look forward to sharing that with you, and I hope you'll join us. And finally, in all of this catching up that we're trying to do for March, we've got this masterclass, which we're going to share right now. We have another masterclass ready to go that was done in parallel with the Marco clip that we shared last month. It's a great masterclass from Tom at the ICMP in London. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about it.
My name's Tom. I kind of go under the composer name Thomas E. Brown just because it sounds much fancier. Thanks for having me, and I hope you find this topic of discussion, or at least some of it, useful. An area that I feel like isn't really talked enough about, which is the potential trials and tribulations of starting a project. Can be tricky.
So that's going to be brilliant. I'm finishing off the editing of that with Tom, and we'll be able to share that with you sometime next week. So that's a brilliant general overview of how to overcome some of the very common challenges that we all face when we're embarking on a new creative project. So yeah, but anyway, let's clear all that out of the way and make the space for this brilliant masterclass now from, well, I'll let her introduce herself.
Welcome to today's masterclass. My name is Karina Rivero, and today I'm going to be your instructor from the Film Scoring Academy of Europe. Along with the QTube, we prepared a class where we're going to be covering specifically how to structure a cue from the story's internal pulse. And what this means is that we're going to be talking about how you can think about your creative process when you first approach a cue as an activity of analyzing the story, as an activity of internalizing the story, and then making decisions on that analysis and on that conversation you first have with the story. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, yeah, let's talk cue structure. I think a lot of times we overlook this part of the creative process as film composers because we sometimes deep dive into the production aspects of composition, and we want to like make sure we have the best libraries and the best sound, and we're wizard MIDI programmers. And like we are often in that mindset, and that's okay because we need to do that as composers. We can also be like super into harmony and harmonic structures, and everything that has to do with the theory we use to compose, orchestration, like everything music is also great. But we often forget that the first step when we're composing to picture is actually the picture itself and what the picture is telling us, what we're learning about the picture and the story. And then the music comes from that. So a lot of times beginner composers ask, where do I start? And I think this is one of the many possible answers, but I think this is a very good answer. Like, you need to start from the story you're working with, and no music, just story and just narrative and just visual language, and that will make sense in a little bit. So yeah, let's get into it. When we talk about structuring a cue from the internal story pulse, we're mostly talking about how the story has a rhythm to itself. When we watch a video, a film, a series, a short film, whatever, really any kind of visual media, it has a pulse, and we can feel it because we're naturally wired to listen to stories. Even when you were a kid and maybe your mom or your dad or whoever told you a bedtime story, there was a certain rhythm and pulse to that. And storytelling has that. So it might be given by the character's actions, it might be given by the camera work or the editing rhythm, whatever it is, or maybe a combination of any of the above. Whatever it is, we need to kind of like internalize that and then put some names to that and then act accordingly with our music. So basically the story has a pulse, a rhythm, in the same way that music has a tempo, and we can like accommodate certain patterns into that, like bars and then subdivisions, etc. And that internal pulse that the story has gives us structure, and that structure is what's gonna be the underlying the underlying structure for our music. So let's talk about how traditional music structures are actually different from film music structures. And this is just saying the same thing again, but in a different way. If you work, say, with pop music, and you often work with verses, pre-choruses, choruses, bridges, and outros, intros, I don't know, whatnot. Or if you're in the jazz world and work with AAVA structures, like that's all great. And that works for film, of course, because music for film could be anything, really, if you think about it. There's no standard film music. There might be some popular kinds of film music, but that doesn't mean there's a standard that you need to follow. So music has structures, and it has had structures forever. And the difference is that film music structures, like we said before, film music structures follow a story. So you probably have an A section, B section, C section, D section, and then you have A again, and then you're repeating your theme from the very top of your cue again in your E section, and then you orchestrate it differently, and then F, G, and so on. It doesn't necessarily have to follow a traditional music structure, is what I'm saying. And if it does, that's great. But if it doesn't, that's great too, because then you're applying your storytelling analysis into your own music that's going to complement and that's going to support the story you're trying to tell. And how do we do that? The way to do that is through dramatic and visual analysis. Dramatic analysis means basically understanding the story, the pacing, the emotional shifts, how they happen, when they happen, and grabbing them. It means trying to find these specific moments and holding on to them for dear life, if you will, and basing your decisions off of that. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to actually set some structures around that. But for now, what you need to know is like just that, like be attentive to your instincts when it comes to watching a film. Make sure you kind of like have that raw internalization of the structure. Like maybe don't put names to it at first, but try to feel that. Try to know like, oh, that was a shift. That was a very deep and long stare. That might mean something. The two people are looking at each other. That might mean something. They might be in love with each other. We don't know yet, but I have a hypothesis now. And that's good. And maybe you want to work with that when composing for that particular scene or whatever. So if that makes sense, I think we can move on with visual analysis. When we talk about that, we're talking mostly about how both the camera is working. Maybe it's panning, maybe it's tilting, maybe it's going towards the subject or moving away from the subject, and the editing. The editing could be very fast paced with very fast cuts or very slow cuts, and we get to see a lot of things before a cut to something else. So if you kind of learn how to, let's say, vibe with that, if you learn how to internalize that, you're gonna be such a better composer, because you're actually understanding the language of the medium you're working with. And that is super valuable, not only for your own work as a composer, but also to your collaborators, to your film directors. They're going to love you because you're going to have a common language to speak. And the common language has to be film. Your director might not be super well versed in music, but you have to be at least semi well versed in film to be able to talk about musical decisions later on in the process. You have to know what the story is telling you. You have to know how the story is telling you certain things. And that's basically how you do it. So let's talk about how your music can support certain kinds of story structures. Films can be structured in so many different ways, and you can slice them up and think about them in so many different ways. But today I want to focus on the very basics of it. And if you know this is great, but it's often good to have a reminder and rethink about things from the ground up. So films are usually made out of sequences and scenes. What are these? Let's look at scenes first. Scene is a unit of a story, a unit of film that usually takes place in a single space, and the time is continuous. So it's a specific moment in time and space where something happens. And since we love animation around here, let's use a little bit of animated examples for that. So let's see how music can support a scene, and pay attention to the structure. Pay attention to how it's different and how it's supporting certain changes and moments, and how the music changes according to different triggers in the story. Let me put my headphones on. And the first clip we're going to be watching is a clip from the Goofy movie, which came out in the long gone 1995. So let's go.
Don't tell me you don't remember Hi Dad's soup. Oh, come on. Sure you do. You used to spell things out using the letters like Hi Dad or Maxie or...
Ambidextrous?
Yeah, that's... Huh? No. Little words like,
Hasta la vista?
like bye-bye.
Or I pledge allegiance.
Or I love you.
Is it soup yet?
Oh, almost forgot.
Whoa, where'd you learn to do that?
Your granddad taught me that when we went to Yosemite.
You two did a lot together, huh?
Yup. Max,
Dad,
you
listen,
and I
I'm
have
sorry.
How's the soup?
Not bad. I'm not... What?
Nothing. Well, we might as well get some shut-eye. I don't think we're going anywhere tonight. Bye, Maxie.
If you take a second look at it, go back in the video and rewatch the scene, but pay attention to how it changed. We had moments of joy, we had moments of very deep love from a dad to his son. We have a very, let's say, comic relief kind of moments when Bigfoot appears and he climbs up on top of the car, and the music changes with that, and then we go back to being tender and feeling the love Goofy has for Max. And that just makes sense when you see it, and then with the music, like, it just makes sense because those musical decisions were made like that. Like, let's hit that trigger, that change, and write music that makes sense for that particular moment. And oftentimes, especially in animation, we like to make it very clear when we have a trigger and a change, and yeah, and mark it and make something musical that kind of carries us through that moment in time. And this also applies a lot to children's movies. Like, we want to make sure the message is conveyed, and music really helps support that. So yeah, that was a scene. Let's talk about sequences now. Let me change my slide here. A sequence. A sequence is usually a series of scenes or a collection of scenes, and tied together, it usually tells a single thing, like a single short story within a film. You can think of a film as a series of short stories that are tied together, and those little short stories are called sequences. As the description says in our slide, it is various moments, it has a longer narrative arc. And we're going to watch just a little bit of probably one of the most famous sequences of all time. And most of you probably know this film very well. So let it just be a reminder of how music can really support a sequence that can tell a very, very long story. I'm so sorry to stop it right there, but I think we get the idea. And I think you can see exactly what I'm talking about. This is a very famous sequence for a reason, and this works very well for a reason. And the reason is it matches the changes of stages in life from these two people exactly. Like for the trigger for a musical change is always a different stage in life, from them getting married into what we, spoiler alert, into what we eventually learn is her death. And I'm sorry you haven't watched it, but it's been what, 16 years, 17 years, so might as well go watch it now. And it is a very long sequence, and the theme repeats throughout. Every section repeats the theme over and over and over again. So why is it not like boring? And what Michael Giacchino did here is the trigger, the hit points is what we call those triggers. The hit points mark different stages in life, and then the music, what it does is it changes orchestration. We start with a trumpet, and then there's a violin playing the theme. There's a piano at some point playing the theme. So different instruments take the thematic material, and that's how you develop an orchestration from the very same theme over and over and over again. Obviously, the harmony changes a little bit, and there's a development in that, but the most obvious change is the orchestration. And it really helps us follow through and connect and empathize to what's going on in every single beat of this sequence. And that is a sequence, but now let's talk about a different kind of cue. Let's talk about transitions. Transition cues are usually used as an entry or an exit to a scene. They don't have to be the mega masterpiece of your life. They don't have to be the main cue of your film, but they can often be derived from very main thematic material, and it just helps us like follow through a very specific change into a scene or from a scene, and we want like that transition to be effective, and there should be a reason for that. Like there should be an emotional reason that we want like a shift in between scenes, and we want to go from a very high happy scene to a very low and very, very tragic place. So we might want to do a transition cue. If the final decision from the filmmakers and you as composer is to not score the scenes themselves, maybe that bridge will help. So let's watch an example from the third Harry Potter movie, and let's see how that works for a bridge between two scenes.
Here, listen. She just won't let me in. Fortuna Major.
No, wait. What's this? Amazing! Just with my voice. Amazing.
Fortuna Major.
Yes, all right. Go in.
Thank you.
Bed.
She's still doing that.
I know.
Brilliant.
She
can't
can't
even
sing.
sing.
Exactly. Go.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Oh!
Oh, green. That's a monkey.
So see what the music did there? Like it's not meant to be gigantic and epic. It's just meant to bridge the scene from the staircases and the singing lady in the painting into the dormitory where they are gonna have fun. So we're just kind of like moving from one universe, let's say, to another universe, which is the school kind of like more formal kind of like place, into a place where kids can be kids and they're bouncing around and imitating animals. So that's how you use a transition, and they're very important. They're very often invisible and they go unnoticed, but you should think about them when you're writing music to a film, especially a longer form film like a feature-length film. And finally, last but not least, we have stingers. Stingers are very short punctuation mark moments, and they're meant to be, let's say, an exclamation mark, a period, a comma in in storytelling. They're meant to just be a little blast, and then that's it. And then they're gone. It's done. Sometimes transitions are called stingers and vice versa. It really depends on who you're talking to, but it's important to know what they do. And then whatever you name them or whatever people you talk to name them, that's fine, as long as you know their function. So I don't have a visual example for this, but what if I tell you badum, right? It might be a super corny example. I know, I'm so sorry, but like it's, I think, clear as water, and it's usually used for comedic functions, right? It's very cliche, but it is a great example, I think. It's short, it's musical, it establishes a very specific message, it conveys something, it comes, it goes, it's done, and it works. And that's what a stinger is for. Okay, so now that we've established scenes, sequences, transitions, and stingers, let's now work with a real film, and let's approach it the way you would approach an animated short film specifically. So I'm gonna go to my Logic session over here. Yeah, so here it is. We have our Logic session here, and what you're watching is a film called The Thief. This is a film by Mexican director Arturo Brena. Super talented. He's also a visual artist. Shout out to him. And it's a very short film. It is 2.5 minutes long, tops. And it is perfect for analyzing these kind of transitions, scenes, sequences, and very clear structural moments for a short film. And the reason we're going to be analyzing this film is because, first of all, it is animated, but second of all, because there is no dialogue, and there is very specific ways in dealing with films that have no dialogue like that, and you kind of have to make up for that in a way. So let's first of all watch the film and with the sound design, and let's talk a little bit about it. Cool. So we've watched it, and I think by now we should all have like a pretty instinctive, let's say, pulse, an instinctive sense of what's going on. So the first thing you want to do is it writing? Like let's pull out like our string patches. No, we don't want to do that. First we want to see what's going on. What's going on with this story? You might have like maybe musical ideas you're ready to write down. Save them in your phone, like sing them to your phone. Don't lose them. Absolutely don't lose them. But let's see what's going on with the film. First of all, let's tell the story in a few sentences. I'm gonna give you like maybe pause the video and think of your own answer, and then come back. And what we see is a thief who's wounded, and she has a chest. There's a magical charm, unexpected charm that she gets from it. There's a magical mirror that comes from that magic that the charm has. She finds a mirroring image of herself as a child in that magic mirror we see, and she tries to connect with herself, which is a very, very powerful metaphor, in this case, from being wounded, especially internal wounds. And then they do touch, their hands touch, and an arrow from the bad guys breaks it. How do you feel about that? Like she accomplished her out of nowhere mission, maybe, but then she's shot, she dies, but she heals. Her wound is gone. She has that for herself. She has that, let's say, happy ending for herself, and that is very important. And we also have a final text which reads, dedicated to anyone in the process of healing old wounds. It's never too late. And we just have a confirmation of what the story is really about: healing old wounds. So the whole story is a metaphor, and we should follow that metaphor and allow ourselves to talk to that metaphor instead of just the facts of what's going on. Yeah, there's a person that's being chased, etc., and she finds things, but let's not forget the anchor of our story, which is healing wounds. Now that we've established that, let's kind of work into finding key moments. We're going to be talking a lot about hit points, and hit points are these triggers we were talking about before, triggers that make or mean something, though, and we need to react to them. The music might need to change. We might need to actually completely pull out and not write any music for a specific moment, or perhaps we need to go full into something. But hit points are basically like making a drawing, and then you're gonna be like coloring it afterwards. So let's work on that for a little bit. It is a very short film, so I think we can make it happen. So we have, first of all, like this little, let's call it like running away scene, if you will. I'm gonna put my markers here. Running away. And then it's great. She goes away, she goes off shot. Cut to black. Oh my god, let me zoom in a little bit. And the thief. This is a very important moment because this is the title and it kind of like feels like it triggers something. So let's put another marker here. Let's call it title. Now we're back to the main character, and the pace is slower now. We see her riding her horse for a little bit. Really, really, really short time. She looks at her dagger, and we take a close look at the first. This is the first time we really kind of like focus on the wound itself. So let's call this. How should we call this? Let's call this the the character traits, right? We get to know her a little bit. She looks at what she's done, probably with her dagger, the wound. There's blood there. Ooh, camera moves. This is important. We're not focusing on her dagger anymore. We're focusing on the chest. So this might be important. Let's mark it. I'll take off my watch. Focus on the chest. Okay, let's move on. Let me mute the sound this time for a little bit. Surprise. Boom. Charm. And see how the camera like changes focus? Like we're on her here. The focus is her. Not anymore. We're on the charm. So, ooh, and then we get a close up from the front of the charm. So this is important. The camera is telling us this is important. This is something we need to pay attention to. So let's mark this general area around here as charm appears, or first appearance. And let's move on. Ooh, it does something. Like, this is important because it appears, and then it does something. Ooh, it does something. There's light coming from somewhere. And that's when we kind of see the mirror the first time, and that's it. This is what's going on. This is a wide shot with her looking at the mirror. So let's mark a few of those to keep them in mind, and then we'll see what to do with them. Let's call this magic. This is huge. Yeah, this is the magic world, let's say. And this is like as you can see, they don't have to be perfect names. You can just vibe with whatever you name your markers and your hit points. It's just for you to kind of feel the structure of it. And then more magic. Pew. Surprise. Bah! Something very important happens here. And what that does is that triggers her dropping her dagger. So let's mark this general area as something happens. She drops her dagger. And remember what we're talking about mainly in this story, healing wounds. So when you're dropping your arm, what are you doing? You're dropping your only means of defense. At this point, she can't attack anymore. This is her becoming vulnerable. She's not armed anymore. So this means she's open to the process, vulnerable, and she can be hurt now. So that moment's done, and this is a new world. This is when she sees something in the mirror. She knows what's going on, and it is only here that we catch up with the story, and we find out that's a reflection of herself, because they have the same body language, the same position of their arms. And this close-up confirms it. It's like, oh, yeah. You might have some doubts when you're watching it. You know what? Never mind. Doubts and questions are confirmed. Like, who's that? That's her. So, yeah, let's say this is a discovery of the reflection. Oh, we find out it's her. And what's gonna happen now? She's like making a decision, probably, and she decides to do something. we see it from the perspective of the little girl in the mirror. So this is when something happens, when she lifts her arm. So let's say around here. Decision made. And move forward. Right? She's moving towards herself, and then you probably like want to change the pace here because she's walking now, she's running. Let's mark it around here. Runs towards her reflection. Run, 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 run. See what the camera is doing? It's rotating very aggressively. Pause from that aggressive rotation into slow motion. Very intense moment. They touch each other. Right? So let's mark it around here and say connection. And we briefly see it. We probably like it can go overlooked, but see how the wound is healed? The wound is healed at the same time that an arrow flies through and shatters the glass. Right? So everything happens super fast. We have two very important things happening. What do we want to focus on? That really depends on your own criteria. And honestly, that depends on your conversation with the director. Don't ever forget that these decisions are made as a teamwork, as a team, especially with your director. So this is a decision you both need to make. And we're going to obviously listen to what the final decision was for this particular film. So let's say we focus on the glass shattering. Arrow, glass, mirror, breaks, something along those lines. Ish. Like it actually we probably want to hit it around where this is and let this part breathe a little bit and let the visual tell us things. Okay. It breaks and she falls. So let's say everything falls apart. She falls. This is the general area where that happens. She's been hurt, evidently. The camera goes out of focus a little bit. It kind of breathes with her own breathing. And then that's what hurt her, the arrow. That's a bad guy. And we have a change of focus again from her into the arrow. Let's mark that. Focus shift into the arrow. And then boom! She gets hit. And her body language kind of confirms that. Like, we don't see it from the front yet. Confirmed. She's been hit. So, let's say around here, she's hit. Confirmed. And see how the camera, it's beautiful how the camera, she's basically dying at this point, and the camera kind of reflects that. It goes out of focus, focused again, out of focus again. She falls. And this is super beautiful because this is the first time in a while that we get an open shot like this. So this is her falling to her death. And here. We still are with her in that dying kind of phase. But then a little smirk, and she touches her cheek where the wound used to be. So this is when if you forgot, or if you didn't really see the wound being healed in that one moment before, this is the time to realize it's gone. So let's mark this area around here. Smirk, wound is gone. She's content with her death. And she passes away, let's say, peacefully. Cut. Cut to black, and then final text. Okay, so again, don't forget what we're talking about. Wounds. And we've made a very thorough slicing of the story. This is a draft. This doesn't have to be your final map for your music. And let's talk a little bit about that. First, let me lock these markers into the timeline. Let me make this one a little bit a little bit shorter. Let's make this like 10, whatever. Oh no. 10. Something short-ish. Around that. Okay. And what this means is we've taken note of important moments. Now, these moments are our hit points. And don't forget that, because this is like very common language for film composers. Hit points. And let's say the zones, or the time running between a hit point and another hit point, are called music areas. Or storytelling areas, if you will. Like I like the term storytelling areas better, because maybe you don't want music in some of them, and that's perfectly great, valid, and acceptable, and desirable even. So we have our hit points, and let's talk boring music. And we don't like that. We are hopefully musicians against boring music, and what that means is we don't want to hit everything, because hitting everything means just making it very predictable and making it very square. We want to also let the picture talk for itself and have tell its story from its own components of its own language. The change of focus in the camera is a strong enough device to tell something. We don't have to support it. Like, there's a rule that if the story is telling it, if the visual is telling it, and the music is telling it, that's overkill. Why would you say the same thing 3 times, right? So what we've done here is catch those important moments, but we don't have to hit everything. That's boring. That's super boring, actually. So maybe we want a running music section that goes from here and covers, I don't know, 4 or 5 hit points, and that's all good. With like very subtle changes, if you want to, in different like hit point starts, that's totally fine. But maybe we actually want to do something like this for like actual music structuring. It's up to you to make sure it's not boring like that, and that you're absolutely not hitting everything. The other thing that you have to take into account is that hit points don't mean downbeats. These don't mean that you have to like fall on the first beat of a bar whenever something happens. That's boring music as well, and we don't like boring music, and we don't like boring storytelling. So what this means is probably you got like an accent in a weird kind of like 16th note in the middle of the bar, and that's cool. We like that. We like that kind of thing. What it might mean is that you have to change from 1 meter to another, and it's totally acceptable to go from a 4/4 time into a 7/8 time, or like, I don't know, a 20/16 time, like whatever you want to do. that's fine. And in film music, it's actually very common to see that. And you get scores with a lot of meter changes, key changes as well. Like modulating is great. Sometimes you don't want to change your meter, and you actually want to use more of the rhythmic subdivision of like your of your meter, and then keep the same tempo, but actually go into 8 notes or 16 note subdivision and create ostinato. I don't know. Every musical decision you make, that's your own toolkit and your response to this, to your understanding of the story and what's going on and what it means in terms of the global theme of the story. Healing a wound in this case. I want to show you a very useful device for analyzing storytelling, and it is called Save the Cat. I know it's a weird name, but it is a structure coined by Blake Snyder, and I do have it around here. It is a way of slicing a story, and most stories told in traditional narratives can be sliced into this structure. So let's look at our image on the left. And what Blake Snyder says is that we can divide a story into its like traditional 3 acts, the first act, the second act, and the third act. And those acts can be subdivided into beats. Beats are units of story that tell us something. And here are the 15 beats, and let's look now at the image on the right, which are the descriptions of these 15 beats, which are the opening image, which is, it tells us a little bit of the hero's before world, what's going on, like an intro of a song, if you will. Then we have the theme stated, like something tells us what the film's going to be about, the short film, the series, whatever. The setup means that's where we introduce the hero, the stakes, the flaws, the supporting cast. The catalyst is the something that happens, the inciting incident that changes everything. Something happens and then everything else happens because of that. Then there's a debate where our hero hesitates, and it's kind of battling with or wrestling with doubts, fear, and they have to overcome that. Break into 2 means we're going to the second act. Here the hero commits to change. They enter a new world. Most stories have a B story or a secondary story where we see a new plot line that deepens the theme, and it's often made obvious via a relationship. From a character to another character, it's usually the main character with a new character or something new. Fun and games. A lot of the story happens in this part, and it is the promise of the premise, which is exploring the story's hook. Let's explore. We have a theme. We have a topic. We need to find a treasure. This is an adventure, and we need to find a treasure. Let's go through all the difficulties that entails. Let's fall into rivers. Let's get out of traps. Let's be chased by dinosaurs while we look for our treasure. That is the fun and games. The midpoint is where something happens. A very important major twist. There's a false victory, a false defeat. There's race stakes. Bad guys close in. External threats and internal doubts collide. This is very often where we see the most vulnerable and most exposed part of a character in a film. All is lost. At this point, something dies, literally or figuratively, and hope fades. So this is when we are really sad, and we've been rooting for our main character the whole time, but here we feel with them that it might not happen. Whatever they're looking for, it might not happen. The dark night of the soul deepens that, and this is where the hero reflects, grieves, and faces whom they must become. Right? This happens around the last quarter of a film or a story, and yeah, it is usually something that triggers a new energy sometimes. And you know what? It might not happen, but what if it does? What if after being chased by the dinosaurs and falling into rivers and falling into traps, what if we can still find the treasure? What if it's still possible? And that's when the break into three happens. We go into the third act, where the epiphany sparks renewed resolve, heading into act 3. So yeah, now we know it might happen. The finale, around, yeah, the last 20% of the movie could happen at any of those parts of the film. This is usually the climax, where the protagonist applies what they've learned to confront the conflict. You know what? I've learned a lot from falling into all these traps, and now I know how to solve this final puzzle, and I can do it. And what I learned before, it's useful now. Let's do it. Let's go. And the final image. Awesome. Something happened. Maybe something didn't happen. Maybe it's a sad ending. Maybe everything falls apart. Whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. But this is a final image that mirrors the opening image and shows transformation. After everything you've gone through, after the hero has gone through so much, something happens. And that's the last time we're going to see our hero. And what's that going to be? Who knows? And good endings tie everything up in very interesting ways. There might be major plot twists at this point, and that's fine, and that's great. And good storytelling use this final beat as a canvas to surprise us, to tie everything up. And this is what stays with us most of the time when we finish watching a show or a film or a short film or whatever. So this is super important. And what I want you to do now is go back to whenever we first watched the short film and watch it again, but like screenshot this, I don't know, like download it. It's available in like everywhere. Just look up Save the Cat Beats Blake Snyder, you'll find it. And watch the short film again, thinking about that. And maybe also think about your favorite film in terms of the story of the Save the Cat story analysis. And you'll see how most of the time things fall into those 15 beats. And that's a very efficient way of analyzing a story, knowing what's going on and anchoring yourself to a theme that permeates the whole story. So I've pre-made a possible Save the Cat analysis for this short film. And like, look at it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 etc. until the 15th beat. I'm gonna keep this on the timeline. And I want you to like take a mental snapshot of it. And I'm gonna go back to our hit points. Some of them, like if some of the Save the Cat like markers line up with some of our hit points. Some of them do, some of them don't, maybe not exactly, but around the area. And that is super important because then we can kind of mix and match. We can make an average of our instinctive hit points and narrative areas and sections versus the Save the Cat analysis. And with that, we can actually like make a map of where the music's gonna like land. I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna like probably play the music later with this markers, with the Save the Cat ones. And now what you gotta do is use your toolkit. Like from this point on, it is decisions on emotions, on actions, on triggers, on hit points, on sequences, scenes, everything we've talked about before with your director. And then it is your job to translate all of this into music. So a lot of people say like, let's do tempo maps, like immediately, amazing, let's go. Yeah, but let's first do this. And this will help you a lot with that. So maybe at first, because it's a chase scene. Let me actually, you know what? Let me go back to our hit points. Maybe here we want like a faster paced music. Maybe we don't want anything. And then when everything like is calm, maybe from the cut, we want a different tempo. So let's say if I watch this, I go pa pa and I want to like probably like kind of match the horse's beat and use that as my tempo, probably, potentially. So I can do a little bit of tempo, tap tempo. So let's say I actually wanted 144. Let me turn my click on. And let me not do accents, because accents kind of predispose us to a specific meter. And like I said, maybe we don't want a specific meter at this point. We just want to feel if the tempo is right. Yeah, so let's say it's right. Let's say this part is 144. And now here we want, maybe that is a rhythmic kind of section. And now we want to introduce thematic material. And well, I can think of the final music theme, but like, let's go, what can we work with? Let's turn that off. Let's say I get an internal pulse of bam, 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 bam. Something along those lines. So let's try, let me go over here and let me add, that'll be like, I don't know, let's say a 50 BPM change. It's just low, let's say 60. Yeah, let's say that feels right for a little bit. Etc. Like, I think you get the point here with the tempo mapping, and then you can meter that tempo. You can choose like what your meter is going to be for this section, and then you'll probably need like a 2/4 bar here, and then start with something, and you'll need to take that into account. You know, like we have a 4/4 up to here. Let me see if I can do that. Signature. And yeah, cool. Let me add here a 2/2. Right, and then we can start our new tempo with a new meter if we want. We might want to go back to 4/4. I don't know. Right, so you can start kind of tempo meter marking your sections, and kind of feel if the pulse is right. And I could go super deep into the process, and we could do a little bit of live scoring here, but that is not the point of this class in particular. We wanted to take a look at this, the slicing of a story, the understanding of what's going on, and then writing, right? So let me show you, I did this wrong, but let me show you the actual piece that was written for this short film. The actual tempo was 126. I do have the time signatures here, which are like changes everywhere. Like it could potentially have been something else, but this is what it ended up being, and that's okay. Let's do Save the Cat. And let me show you the final music for this film. So this was recorded with a 64-piece orchestra and a soprano, which was really cool. Can also show you really quick chord progression, so kind of cool. But let's go back to Save the Cat. And how should I do this? So you can see the stems. Well, it's not super essential that you see the stems, but let's go like this, and yeah, have fun. And let's see what you think about the actual music for the film. Let's play with the sound design. That should be, let's remove the click. That should be all good. Yeah, so that's the music for this short film. Maybe I forgot to mention it, but I wrote it. So, yeah, this was obviously made um, in deep collaboration with the director, and we talked a lot about a lot of things. He's also a musician, so he pitched in a lot of very good ideas, and this is what ended up being the music. And it is important. It is super important for you to be critical. And if you think something should have been different or could have worked better, that is actually awesome. And that means you've like a critical eye for the story, a critical ear for the music, and then you can put that together and apply it to your own work. And like this is done. You can't make this one, but like when you can criticize and you can find areas of opportunity in others' works, that means you're being critical. So go into every movie you watch with that critical ear and critical eye. That doesn't mean like judgmental. Be careful with that because that is often a mistake that composers that we often do, and we want to judge everything. We don't. We want to be critical, which is super different. We want to be collaborative with our filmmakers, and we want to be smart about how we talk about things and how we approach things. Sensitive, smart, and critical. Those are, I think, three very critical skills of being a composer, besides obviously everything music. So that's basically how you do that. And let's look at this month's composition task, which is a super short and very fun film. Where is it? It's called Daily Dweebs, and it is a minute-long story. Let's watch it first, and then let's talk a little bit about it. So that's it. That was the whole story. It is just a minute long. But if you've been paying attention and if you've been internalizing everything we've talked about in this masterclass, you could surely feel some of the hit points and some of the sections and some of the save the cat bits. Even in a short, very short story like this, everything's there. Even like it's super funny, but even like things like the dark night of the soul, that's present in a very funny story like this, very childish story, which is super fun and super like, yeah, it's supposed to be a fun story. So I don't want to give you any answers or predispose you to anything. And remember, there are no right answers. So whatever you think about this film, that is your artistic prerogative as a composer. And ask your questions. What's the film about? What do we know about the character? What's the character's personality? What are the secondary characters? What are they doing for the main character? It doesn't matter if it's a super short, fun story like this one. There are a lot of questions we need to ask, and you'll even have more fun if you ask a lot of questions. When you're working with a director, questions are like they're magic, and they love questions, and we love questions too because they trigger a conversation and they trigger depth into the story. And even if it's fun like this and it's meant for children, there's depth to that, and we need to work with that. So yeah, go ahead, work with the film, have a lot of fun, and yeah, enjoy the process and upload your results. We would love to watch them. And thank you a lot for yeah, bearing with me for this whole hour and something minutes, or yeah, let's say an hour of masterclass. Thank you so much for joining from the Film Scoring Academy of Europe and the QTube. My name is Karina Rivero, and we hope to see you here again soon.